Ever wonder why some training programs transform athletes and others fall flat? It all comes down to 5 qualities you must include: specificity, progression, overload, reversibility, variety. These aren't just buzzwords, they're the blueprint for real adaptation. Good training follows these simple principles: be specific to the sport, increase load progressively, include recovery, use variety, and plan cycles with periodization. These rules help athletes improve safely and avoid injury or burnout. A well-designed program targets the right adaptations at the right time. Hello and welcome to Mr. Livingstone PE. Today's standard level session explains why effective exercise training design matters for safety and performance. We'll examine and define the core training principles, show how to apply them in periodized plans, and give examples of how to tailor exercise programs with fitness, age, and sex differences. This includes the menstrual cycle considerations and the need to prevent overtraining or unintentional overreaching, as this can lead to long-term injury and burnout. We'll also look at the other end of the spectrum and how we may apply some short-term intentional overreaching to bring about improvements in strength and performance, also known as supercompensation. Later in the video, we'll have an interactive scenario for you to consider how you might implement progressions and regressions as a coach or athlete for a given training session, and how this could be developed for a series of microcycles. You'll be able to suggest some practical implications for training, and you can decide how to appropriately and safely apply the core training principles learned earlier in the video. If you manage to stick around until the end, I'll give you some sports science IA research question ideas specific to this topic, and you can have a go at the MCQs, DBQs, and ERQs included in this video so you can continue to maintain your exam readiness. With that being said, use the timestamps in the video to jump to relevant sections, and now let's get stuck into the content. The objectives you should achieve by the end of this video include being able to define the terms training, undertraining, overreaching, and overtraining. Outline training principles of specificity, progressive overload, recovery, variety, reversibility, and periodization. Describe the key components of a periodized training program and how they fit together. Explain the impact of frequency, intensity, and duration of training on the athlete's training response. Outline some training program considerations. Discuss the overtraining syndrome, its impact on an athlete, how it may occur, the tools used for its diagnosis, and the issues associated with those tools. And lastly, discuss genetics, responders, and non-responders. Quite a lot to get through for the first piece of standard content of Topic A, 3, response, and the subtopic of qualities of training. Let's see how we get on. Poor planning, such as too much intensity, too little recovery, or random sessions, leads to non-functional overreaching, loss of performance, or potential injury. So let's take a look at the first important principle we need to include: specificity. Specificity means the body adapts to the exact demands you place on it, the same energy systems, movement patterns, speeds, and muscle actions. For coaching, we should make drills and sessions mimic the sport. Sprinters should train short, maximal power efforts and sprint-specific strength, whereas marathoners should prioritize aerobic endurance and running economy. We should also consider using task-specific strength and technique work, so training stresses the same joints, velocities, and contraction types athletes use in competition. Progressive overload means steadily increasing training stress by raising intensity, volume, or frequency, so the body adapts. Keep increases small and controlled. For example, raise weekly volume by about 5 to 10%, or change one training variable at a time. Use short training blocks, commonly referred to as microcycles, to build training load safely and watch how the athlete responds. We should also measure the training load objectively when possible. Session RPE, times duration, gives a simple training load number. GPS data help in team sports, and strength load can be tracked as weight times reps times sets. If signs of maladaptation appear, such as persistent fatigue, poor sleep, or declining performance, we should reduce load or regress the plan to allow recovery. Recovery is where training produces gains. Key elements are good sleep, about 7 to 9 hours, adequate nutrition, including protein for repair, carbohydrates for glycogen restoration, proper hydration, and appropriate recovery activity.
Active recovery, such as easy movements, helps blood flow and speeds lactate clearance, whilst passive recovery gives full rest. We should plan regular lighter weeks inside training blocks so the body can consolidate adaptations. We can monitor recovery with tools like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, and simple wellness questionnaires to guide adjustments. Too little recovery leads to non-functional overreaching, injury risk, and problems like relative energy deficiency in sport, also known as RED-S. Variety in training reduces boredom and overuse injuries. Rotate exercises and methods. Mix running, cycling, strength work, and mobility to spread stress across different tissues and keep multiple systems improving. Anaerobic methods such as short, very high-intensity work like sprints, high-intensity interval training, and heavy lifts boost power, strength, and the ability to produce energy without oxygen. They improve the phosphagen and glycolytic systems and increase sprint and repeated effort capacity. Aerobic methods such as longer, moderate intensity sessions build endurance by increasing mitochondria, capillaries, and the muscle's ability to use oxygen. They raise aerobic capacity and help sustain steady efforts. Finally, reversibility. Ultimately, this means gains fade when training stops. Fitness can drop within days to weeks of inactivity, so keep some baseline activity during breaks. Use cross-training, such as low-impact cycling or swimming, and light strength work to preserve fitness when sport-specific training is limited. Next, we need to look at a term known as periodization. This is where a coach or athlete would arrange training into planned blocks so that the athlete or team would peak when it matters. Think in cycles. A macro cycle is the season or year. Mesocycles are 4 to 12 week blocks with specific goals, and microcycles are the weekly plans that build those blocks. A common sequence to follow would be to build an aerobic base, add strength, convert to power and speed, then taper before competition. Additionally, it is important to know that there are different models. Linear periodization progresses steadily from general to specific work. Undulating periodization rotates intensity and focuses more frequently, for example, week to week. Choose the model that fits the athlete's schedule, readiness, and recovery capacity. Some practical examples for you here. A marathon year might emphasize long aerobic base months, then specific threshold and race pace build-up before a taper. Whereas a sprinter's plan spends more time on strength and power blocks than short specific speed work leading to competition. We should always attempt to match the plan to the competition calendar and adapt based on how the athlete responds. Beginners should build basic movement skills first, focus on physical literacy, easy to moderate aerobic sessions, and simple strength and mobility work. Progress slowly and emphasize good technique so habits form safely. Intermediate athletes can add more structure, planned intervals, organized strength phases, and sport-specific drills to develop speed and endurance. Increase load carefully and monitor how they respond. Advanced athletes need highly specific programs with higher intensity and volume. Use targeted strength and power blocks, frequent testing, and tight periodization to peak for key events. For all levels, measure progress with performance tests or simple biomarkers and adjust the plan when progress stalls or recovery suffers. An athlete's response to training is highly individual and depends on several key factors that must be considered in quality program design. However, inter-individual differences, particularly genetics, mean that athletes respond very differently to the same training stimulus. Some individuals are high responders who show dramatic improvements from training, while others are low responders or even non-responders who may see minimal changes despite following identical programs. This individual variation in training response highlights why effective program design must account for personal characteristics. Here are some other considerations to implement. For youth athletes, focus on coordination, movement variety, and learning safe technique. Use light loads and progress slowly. Avoid maximal lifts until movement quality and physical maturity are established. For older adults, resistance training is key to slow muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, and protect bone health. We should include balance work and low-impact cardio and allow more recovery time between hard sessions. Sex differences matter but don't dictate training. Men often have more lean mass and may gain muscle size faster. Women experience menstrual cycle changes that can affect strength, recovery, and body temperature. Use cycle-aware guidance if helpful. This includes the follicular and early follicular phase. Many can handle heavier strength and high-intensity interval training, as recovery and perceived effort are often better. During ovulation, some athletes feel strongest here, a possible window for maximal efforts if no symptoms. And finally, during the luteal phase, consider reducing high-intensity volume, increase carbohydrate and hydration support, and monitor for higher perceived effort or thermal strain. Planned overreaching is a short, intentional push in training, followed by a recovery period that leads to greater fitness. Overtraining is when stress is too high or recovery too little, and performance drops for weeks or months. We should watch for signs of maladaptive overtraining with both of these. This includes ongoing tiredness, low mood, poor sleep, higher resting heart rate, worse performance, frequent minor illnesses, or loss of motivation. We can prevent overtraining with sensible planning, use periodization with built-in deload weeks, track load and recovery, ensure good nutrition and 7 to 9 hours sleep, and respond early to warning signs. We should increase load gradually, around 5 to 10% weekly, include regular easy weeks every 3 to 6 weeks, and cut intensity and volume when resting heart rate or fatigue rises consistently. In this section, we'll take a look at a hypothetical scenario for effective training design. Based on the content, can you design a microcycle making things easier or harder, which helps to progress all players for the given scenario? Let's see. In this scenario, you are the designated strength and conditioning consultant working with a team of high school varsity basketball players preparing for the regional playoffs in 10 weeks. After the mid-season fitness testing, the coach has noticed that fitness levels are not where they should be and has came to you for help. The team has gym availability 5 sessions per week and have 2 competitive games per week. The coach has stipulated that they must still train together whilst accommodating position-specific needs. Your task is to design a 4-week microcycle, which includes progressive and regressive training modifications that demonstrate quality program design for basketball-specific conditioning, while ensuring all players peak for playoffs. Let's take a look at the scenario specifics and the relevant data. Pause the video as it appears on screen. Construct your solutions and suggestions now. Possible solutions and suggestions for this scenario can be seen on screen. This outlines the 4-week microcycle structure, progressive and regressive elements of the program, with position specifics and response management for each individual. We can then see how the training principles have been applied specifically for basketball on the right-hand side of the screen to ensure quality design. As a result of the program, we would expect to see an 8 to 12% improvement in repeated sprints, enhanced fourth quarter stamina, and maintained skill execution in game situations whilst under fatigue. If you came close to this with your suggestions and solutions, well done. Let's move on to some formative assessment and exam technique. In this section, we'll have a go at some quick-fire multi-choice questions based on the effective training design content, which may appear in Paper 1A. Pause the video here, have a go and see how you get on. Let's take a look at the mark scheme so you can self-assess. Okay, good stuff. Next, let's have a go at some data-based, short answer and extended response questions which may appear on Paper 1B and Paper 2. For possible short answer and extended response style IB exam questions, you may be required to define the training principles, apply them with metrics where relevant, for example, training load calculations, provide sport examples or propose monitoring protocols. You may also need to use calculations and equations outlined in the sports science data booklet where necessary. On screen, you can see some short answer questions related to the video content. Use the command term key to carefully consider the requirements of each DBQ and ERQ question and construct your answers with the appropriate level of detail. Pause the video now and give them a go. Now let's take a look at the answers and see how you performed. Take a moment to pause the video here to reflect and self-assess. That is the end of the content for qualities of training. We can finish by thinking about the following linking questions from the course guide between what we have covered in this video, topic B and topic C, C3 and C4, how can monitoring inform an athlete's readiness for training, and also B.3.2, how do the training principles of prehabilitation and appropriate warm-up protocols support injury reduction? If you found the effective training design subtopic interesting, you may wish to pursue a scientific investigation in this area. On screen, you can see some sports science internal assessment ideas and key considerations you may wish to use to support with formulating a research question. To summarise, effective training design applies specificity, progressive overload, recovery, variety, reversibility, and periodisation. Tailor plans to fitness, age and sex, whilst integrating prehab and warm-ups, as well as monitoring training load. Prevent overtraining and use objective criteria for progression and regression.
If you're into sport-specific training or exercise and fitness, I hope you gained some value from the video today, and now you have a clear understanding of how to apply the core training principles when designing an effective exercise program. Hopefully, today's approach is a lot more beneficial to a range of PE teachers, exercise enthusiasts or students, and this can support many more people holistically beyond the channel focus of IB Sports Science. If you agree, and if you wouldn't mind, please do spread the word to get your like-minded colleagues and friends to subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for the next video where we'll look at another piece of standard level content from A.3, which includes the benefits of an active lifestyle and the importance of well-being. Alternatively, if you would like a little refresher on previous content from topic A, I'd recommend looking at this episode right here. Thanks once again for watching, and I'll see you over on the next one.